Parents gave my sister $100,000 and a Tiffany necklace for her wedding gift. A few days later, at her bridal shower, she called my handmade gift embarrassing. I walked out and texted my old college friend. Now she's at my door, begging me not to testify. I guess I should start by saying I never expected things to spiral the way they did. I didn't walk into that bridal shower hoping for applause or admiration. I just wanted to give my sister something real. Something from me. Something I'd made with my own two hands. What I didn't expect was for her to humiliate me in front of 50 people, then act like nothing had happened. I didn't expect my parents to laugh with her. I didn't expect the same old favoritism to come back in such a gut-punching way. And I definitely didn't expect that walking out of that party would put me at the center of an investigation that could blow up her entire life. But that's what happened. I made a handmade platter for her wedding. A personalized ceramic piece that took me over a month to get right. Intricate carvings, their initials, a glaze I had to fire 3 times. It wasn't flashy, but it was meaningful. She called it embarrassing. Laughed. Held it up like it was a joke. My mother chuckled and said, "Well, not everyone can give Tiffany, right?" I left before I could say something I'd regret. When I got in the car, my hands were shaking. I didn't cry. I just stared at the steering wheel like it had answers. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I texted Layla. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. We were inseparable in college. Then, like so many young friendships, ours broke under the weight of miscommunication, distance, and pride. But I remembered she had gone to law school. I remembered she was brilliant, relentless, and most of all honest. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't even looking for comfort. I just needed someone who knew me. Someone who didn't think I was invisible. I sent her a simple message, "Hey. It's Rowan. Long story, but I could really use a friend right now." She replied in 2 minutes, "Rowan? Funny timing. You won't believe this, are you related to Marcus Delane by any chance?" My stomach dropped. I didn't want to believe what she was telling me. But the pieces clicked together too fast for denial. Marcus, my sister's fiancé, was already on a watch list. Layla was part of a task force focused on financial crimes and real estate fraud across the Southeast. She told me Marcus's name had come up repeatedly alongside a web of shell companies, fake investment properties, and shady transfers. And Bryn's name? It appeared on several business documents. She was listed as an executive on 2 of them. I thought of the Range Rover she'd posted on Instagram. The new house they bought cash. The luxury honeymoon was already booked in full, months before the wedding. "I don't think she even knows," I told Layla on the phone. "That's usually how it works," she said. "They keep their partners in the dark. Or pretend they're in the dark." I was just at her bridal shower. She humiliated me in front of everyone over a handmade gift. That's the last conversation I had with her. Layla paused. "That may actually help us." I didn't say yes. Not then. But I didn't say no either. 3 days later, Bryn showed up at my house. I recognized the knock before I even looked through the peephole. She has knocked the same way since we were kids. A rhythmic double tap, like a heartbeat. When I opened the door, she stood there in leggings and an oversized hoodie. No makeup. Hair in a messy knot. Not a diamond in sight. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside. She didn't even sit. She just stood there, shifting weight from one foot to the other like she had somewhere to be but couldn't move. "I know about Marcus," she said finally. I waited. "And I know you talked to someone." "I don't know who, but I know." Still, I said nothing. "I didn't know about the money stuff," she added. "He told me everything was legal. He said it was smart investing. He told me not to ask questions because it was all complicated." "That's how people end up in court," I replied. She looked at me for a long time. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. I didn't mean to make you feel small in the shower. I don't know. Showing off. I thought you were used to it by now. That hurt more than the actual insult. You thought I was used to being treated like a joke? I asked. I didn't mean it like that. But you said it like that. She sat down then. Hands in her lap. Shoulders hunched like the weight of everything was finally pressing down. I'm begging you, she said. Please. Don't testify. I didn't answer right away. I didn't yell. I didn't throw her out. I just sat across from her and stared at the person I used to share a room with, who now felt like a stranger. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the one with the power. Bryn sat in my living room like she had nowhere else to be, even though she was probably needed at a dozen places. Her wedding was still a few weeks away, assuming it was still happening. I didn't ask. She fidgeted with the hem of her hoodie, and for a long time, we both just sat there in silence. I wasn't sure if I was waiting for an apology or just wanted her to sit with the discomfort she'd never been forced to feel. I know I've been awful to you, she finally said. Her voice was so low it nearly disappeared into the hum of the refrigerator. That part didn't surprise me. What surprised me was the look in her eyes. Not just guilt or fear. Real, raw fear. And I know I haven't earned your trust. But Rowan, I didn't sign anything. I didn't even look at the papers he gave me. I just trusted him. She glanced up at me, and I saw her trying to measure how much she could confess without implicating herself further. He told me to put my name on a couple of things. Said it was just paperwork, for business registration. And I did, because I didn't think twice. I'd been so stupid. It was strange. I'd spent most of my adult life believing she was this perfectly put-together person, always 10 steps ahead. But now she looked like someone who couldn't even find the next one. You never asked what they were? I asked. I didn't want to, she said. I liked the life we were building. I wanted to believe he had it handled. The words sounded like a confession wrapped in a defense. I sat back and crossed my arms. Do you even remember what you said about my gift? She flinched. Yes. I spent weeks on that platter. I chose every detail to reflect your relationship. The flowers, the glaze, the shape of the rim. And you mocked it. Laughed at it. In front of everyone. She blinked rapidly, then looked down. I was performing. I wanted everyone to think I was on top of everything. You know how it is. Bridal showers, weddings, it's like a show. And I thought, if I acted a certain way, people would be impressed. But they were already impressed, I said. You already had the house, the car, the designer dress. What more could you possibly need? Control, she said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe I just didn't know how to be kind without it feeling like I was giving something up. There it was. The honesty. I didn't forgive her at that moment. I didn't know if I ever could. But something softened in me. Just slightly. She stayed for a while longer, and asked me not to talk to anyone else until she could figure things out. I didn't promise anything. I told her I would think about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the workbench in my studio, turning a lump of clay over and over in my hands, but I didn't put it on the wheel. I just stared at it. Clay is strange. It remembers every touch. Every little dent or pressure, every careless move. You can smooth it over, shape it into something beautiful, but the scars are still there hidden under the glaze. That's what it felt like with Bryn. Years of pressure, subtle insults, invisible bruises I'd convinced myself didn't matter. But they did. They accumulated. They hardened into resentment. I didn't want revenge. What I wanted was for her to understand the weight of what she'd done. Not just the potential crime she was tangled up in, but the erosion of our relationship. The casual cruelty. The assumption that my love was unconditional, even when hers clearly wasn't. A few days passed. I didn't hear from her. Then Layla called. "We might be subpoenaing you," she said. "Not just as a potential witness, but someone who may have seen documents in their home." I saw binders. Papers. I didn't read them. Doesn't matter. Just your presence there during those events puts you on the list. You don't have to offer much. Just the truth. I hesitated. "I haven't promised her anything." Layla was quiet for a second. "Rowan, I know she's your sister. But this is bigger than a family spat. This is fraud, laundering. If he goes down and she's implicated, she could lose everything." "She's already starting to," I murmured. "Are you okay with that?" Was I? I thought of that moment at the bridal shower. The laughter. The way she held my gift like it was garbage. The way no one stopped her. Not even our parents. I thought of the way she showed up at my house, not to apologize but to bargain. And I thought of the platter. How I found it a week later on a dusty shelf at a local Goodwill. I knew it was mine the second I saw the floral carving on the edge. I bought it back for $2.49. $2.49. For a piece that had taken me 30 hours. That told me everything I needed to know. The day the subpoena arrived, I didn't feel triumphant. It came in a nondescript envelope, hand-delivered, as if it were just another utility bill. I opened it at the kitchen counter while my tea was still steeping. My name was printed clearly, no room for confusion. I sat down, read it twice, and just let the paper sit there. Like it was breathing beside me. This wasn't about the platter anymore. This was real. And still, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I felt clean. Like the air around me had been washed off years of invisible tension I didn't realize I'd been holding. I didn't call Bryn. I didn't warn her. The next day, she showed up again. This time, there was no hoodie. She was dressed neatly, almost formally, like someone who wanted to appear composed in court. Her eyes were glassy, rimmed in red. She looked tired. Not performatively tired, not for sympathy, just drained. "I got the call," she said. "You're testifying?" I nodded. She didn't ask why. "I guess I deserve it," she whispered. "I thought you'd let it go." "You always did before." That struck me deeper than anything else she'd said. Because she was right. I had always let it go. The birthday parties where she got gifts and I got forgotten. The time she told her college friends I was her weird artsy sister who lives in Asheville like a divorced poet. The time she'd borrow money in college and never pay it back, assuming I wouldn't ask. I had always swallowed it. Told myself it was easier that way. That holding a grudge was heavy and forgiveness was light. But forgiveness without change? Without acknowledgement? That's not forgiveness. That's erasure. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said. "But I won't protect something that was built on lies. Especially not for someone who treated me like I was disposable." She nodded. Slowly. Like it took effort to move even that much. "I don't blame you," she said. "And I found the platter. The one I gave away. I went back for it but it was already gone." "I know," I said. "It's on my wall." Her eyes flicked up to me, surprise softening her features. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, but closed it again. "I never really saw you," she said finally. "Until now." Then she left. The day I testified, it was a closed session with no reporters, no jury, just a few attorneys and Layla beside me, guiding the process. I told them what I'd seen. The binders in the office. The way Marcus joked about creative financing while sipping scotch in front of a whiteboard covered in numbers. I remembered a strange phone call I'd overheard where he used words like shells and front cover. I didn't embellish. I didn't guess. Just the truth. When it was done, I walked out of the courthouse with a feeling I hadn't expected. Lightness. Not because anything was over, far from it. The legal process was just beginning. Bryn might not go to jail, but she'd face financial audits, asset seizures, maybe years of scrutiny. The wedding was postponed indefinitely. Rumors were already floating through her friend groups like wildfire. Her influencer career was in freefall. But I wasn't weighed down by her mess anymore. I'd stepped out of it. Layla met me on the courthouse steps with 2 coffees. "You did the right thing," she said, handing one to me. "I know," I said. "And I meant it." We walked down the steps together, neither of us talking much. Just the rhythm of our shoes against the stone, and the spring breeze wrapping around us like a clean slate. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel cruel. I felt steady. It had taken me nearly 40 years to realize that boundaries aren't punishments. They're self-respect. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for someone you love is to stop letting them walk all over you. The weeks following the testimony were eerily quiet. Not just from Bryn, but from my parents too. We weren't exactly a close-knit family to begin with, but there had always been a sort of obligatory current flowing beneath everything: holiday check-ins, group texts on birthdays, calls on Mother's Day. That current stopped completely after the subpoena. It was as if I'd broken some unspoken pact: we don't air the family's dirty laundry, no matter how filthy it gets. Especially if it stains the golden child. At first, it stung. The silence. The judgment I could feel in their absence. But then I noticed something strange. I felt better. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was chasing their approval, dodging their comparisons, or explaining my life in a way that might make it sound more respectable. I was just living it. My studio started picking up again. A local writer featured my work in a small piece for a regional magazine, and that brought in more custom orders than I'd seen in months. My evenings were filled with the rhythmic sound of the pottery wheel, the low murmur of the kiln, and the slow, tactile joy of creation. I started sleeping better. I started eating like someone who didn't have to prove they were doing okay. I even went back to yoga. And through it all, Layla stayed close. Not just as a lawyer or former roommate, but as a friend. A real one. We didn't talk about Bryn much. But every now and then, something would slip out. "She used to cut my hair when we were kids," I said one night as we painted mugs in the studio after hours. "With craft scissors." Said I'd look like the cool girls in teen magazines. I looked like I'd been attacked by squirrels. Layla laughed. "You still talk about her like you want her back." "I don't want her back," I said. "I want what we never had." She nodded like she understood, and I think she did. Then one afternoon in early May, I got a call from my mother. She didn't leave a voicemail. Just a missed call. I stared at it for 10 minutes before calling back. She answered quickly, but without warmth. "I hope you're happy," she said. There it was. She didn't say hello. Didn't ask how I was doing. Just jumped straight into the indictment. "Your sister's name is in the papers now. Do you know what that does to a person's reputation? Do you know how humiliating this has been for us? Do you know what it's been like being your other daughter for the last 30 years? I asked. That stopped her. For a moment, all I heard was breathing on the other end. Sharp and shallow. "I've never asked you for anything," I continued. "Not money. Not favors. I've spent my whole life being invisible in this family. And the one time I stand up for myself for the truth, you call to guilt me? She's your sister." "No," I said quietly. "She's your favorite." My mom hung up. I didn't call back. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. It was from Bryn. It wasn't long. Just a few paragraphs. But it was the first time she'd ever put anything in writing that wasn't a list, a joke, or a post for social media. She apologized. Not for the crime, there were lawyers involved now, and anything she wrote would be scrutinized. But for me. For how she made me feel. She wrote, "You were always the one who actually built something. I just posed next to it. I see that now. And this part stuck with me. If I had paid even half the attention to you that I gave to strangers online, I would have realized how badly I was failing you as a sister." I didn't cry. But I did put the letter in a box, folded carefully, like a fragile thing that needed to be kept safe, not forgiven. I didn't write back to Bryn. Not because I didn't appreciate her letter. I did. More than she probably expected. But because I didn't feel obligated to respond. And that was new for me, choosing silence not out of hurt, but because I no longer needed her validation. I didn't need to explain myself or fix things for her. Her apology could just exist, quietly, in the space between us. That was enough. A few weeks later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that the wedding had been called off for good. Marcus had accepted a plea deal that included jail time and asset forfeiture. His name was already being scrubbed from his former company's website. His flashy lifestyle collapsed like a paper house in a storm. Bryn had moved into a small condo downtown that our parents helped her rent. From what I gathered, she started a job doing marketing for a local boutique, a massive step down from her sponsored luxury lifestyle, but a job nonetheless. One that involved actual work. It was strange to picture her there. Typing emails. Making spreadsheets. Getting feedback from someone who wasn't paid to flatter her. But maybe that's what she needed. Maybe it's what we both needed. By early summer, the storm had mostly passed. The press cycle had moved on. The legal case had reached a quieter stage. And I had completely filled my custom orders list through the end of fall. My evenings were spent with soft clay, good tea, and sometimes Layla, who'd become more of a fixture in my life than I ever imagined possible when I first sent her that desperate message. We were sitting on my porch one evening, wine glasses in hand, the cicadas humming in the background, when she asked, "Do you miss her?" I thought for a long time before answering. "I miss the idea of her," I said. The version of her I kept hoping would show up. The one who'd sit beside me at family dinners and ask about my work. Who'd wear the necklace I made for her when we were kids, instead of mocking it. "She might get there one day," Layla said. "She might," I agreed. "But I'm not waiting anymore." She blinked her glass against mine. "Good." The platter, the one I'd made for Bryn, still hung on the wall in my kitchen. I hadn't moved it. It didn't haunt me anymore. It reminded me of what I could build, what I could survive, and what I no longer had to tolerate. One morning in late July, I was packing a custom order for a couple who'd commissioned matching anniversary bowls. They'd picked a soft gray-blue glaze with delicate floral inlays. As I packed them into the box, I realized something. I hadn't thought about Bryn in days. And it wasn't because I was trying to forget her. It was because I finally didn't need to carry her weight anymore. She could live her life however real or performative she chose. And I'd live mine. Honestly. Quietly. Fully. Without apology. And that was the real gift I gave myself. Not a ceramic platter. Not revenge. But peace. And once I had it, no one, not even my own sister, could take it from me again.